This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Daws.
And as the sleigh bells subside, we say, hello, happy Christmas, it's nearly there. Welcome to the Partners in Crime 2019 Christmas special, and also the end of year roundup, because we decided we're not doing another one next week. It will be next week, but it will be towards the end of the week, and it will already be 2020 by then.
2020, we would have nursed our hangovers, we would have actually put on another 2 inches around our waists, and Christmas will be finished for another year.
Looking forward to it though, because of course that is the year in which everybody's sight will be perfect.
Pray do tell.
2020. Got to start off with your best material.
That's it.
Hook 'em early.
That's it. He's been opening the crackers a little prematurely.
He's been on the sherry. But this is our Christmas special. It is our end of year special. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat about our highlights of the year. We're going to talk about, I guess, our Christmas plans, because we're nearly there. What are you doing this Yuletide season?
Well, this, as every Christmas, is going to be a full-on family affair. Visiting relatives up to Christmas Eve pretty much, and then it's Christmas dinner at ours for about, I think it's usually around about 25 people, and we just have a jolly old time. We do a lot of party games and end up doing a little bit of karaoke, and then in my case falling to sleep in a mellow fashion in the sitting room while the party continues with the younger members of the household elsewhere.
Well, yeah, mine's much the same. I've got my parents over. I've got my wife's parents. I've got a friend of mine who's on his own this Christmas, or of course not, because he's having to spend it with my insane family. So yeah, I will be cooking and trying to not poison people.
Do you do the turkey? What are you having? A turkey or
it'll be a turkey, yes. It's not so much that I do it; it's just I don't trust anybody else to do it. That's the main problem.
That's interesting.
Well, of course, my little one will be 3 soon as well, so Christmas takes on a whole new meaning. There's been quite a build up to it this year. The tree went up early. We've had, I think, 3 visits to Santa.
3 visits to different Santas.
Yeah, they all looked quite similar, thankfully. So
yes, there's a sort of a standard look, isn't there?
There is that.
But I'm saying this, I mean, because there is a standard look, as all our listeners who quite rightly fully believe in Santa Claus must know, he tends to wear the same sort of clothes and has the same sort of general demeanour and look, no matter where you find him, be it in a shopping centre or at a garden centre, or just sort of on top of your roof trying to look down your chimney.
Stuck up your chimney.
Yeah, but so that's what about Christmas shows? We see part of our Christmas continues, and pretty much all the way through the week up to the new year for us as well. So we will be making the traditional pilgrimage oop north to my brother-in-law, who's starring in the pantomime in Stockport, Greater Manchester, where he has been a stalwart of pantomime for several years now. What about you? Are you visiting any pantomimes or Christmas shows?
I do hope not. It's not my usual thing.
La 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 la.
Yeah.
Not even that one.
No. We have managed to avoid any kind of pantomimes and things like that. Yeah, he doesn't actually know they exist yet, which is good. So I'm hoping it stays that way for much longer.
Oh no, it won't.
This is exactly why I don't like them.
Oh, you've got to love a good pantomime. A good traditional pantomime.
No, you don't. There's no law that says you have to.
No, there is no law, absolutely. But I think I can guarantee if you saw a first-class traditional pantomime, you'd change your mind.
I did see one. I saw the Chuckle Brothers at the Auburn Arena in St Albans a few years ago.
The great Chuckle Brothers, and of course we lost one of them this year, which is...
Well, I didn't. You might have done. That was careless. I had nothing to do with them.
Oh, they were wonderful.
Yes,
I mean, they were absolutely terrific. Well, we love a good pantomime in our house. Although I've never done them. People say, "Do you do pantomime every year?" And I go, "No, I don't." Well, I don't get asked. And and secondly, I did I've done a couple in my time, and they nearly finished me off. Truth be told, it's very hard work. But up and down the country, there are thousands and thousands of people working on Christmas shows of all kinds, and they work very hard. They get very little time off, so it's a very, very, very busy time in the business. For actors, singers, and dancers. So anyway, support your local theatre. Whether it's a professional or amateur, go and have a good old laugh. And I can remember the last pantomime I did. There was a sort of a song sheet that comes down. The song sheet comes down at the end of panto. Usually so that the buttons or wishy-washy can go front of tabs while they have a big set change to create the walk down all the steps where everyone comes on and bows and whatever. So there's usually a song sheet that comes down, and Buttons finds himself singing like there's a worm at the bottom of the garden and its name is Wiggly Woe. Now I'm going to take this side of the audience and you're going to take that side of the audience and we can see who sings the loudest. I like all that.
And we'll try and be as noisy as possible so you can't hear us changing the set behind the curtain.
Exactly. Although it can be rather dangerous, certainly if you're playing the baddie. If you're playing Ebenezer or you're playing King Rat or something like that, there have been known to be sort of missiles hurled in the form of boiled sweets and various other things from the auditorium. So you have to be pretty gutsy, I think. But it's as I say, lots of thousands of professionals working up and down the country, earning a living by trying to entertain the great British public. So God bless them.
I like the way that our end-of-year review for 2019 culminated with, does anybody remember when one of the Chuckle Brothers died?
Yes, but
we'll leave it at that, actually.
I love the Chuckle Brothers.
I do, yeah.
And do you know there's another?
There's
the
4
Chuckle
or 5,
Brothers.
isn't there?
There's 4, and 2 of them do pantomime every year. The 2 older brothers, actually, and Ted's worked with them, and they are fantastic.
And a little known fact, in the Chuckle Vision series, Mr. No Slacking is one of the other brothers.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
They,
I think all 4 of them actually appeared in the show.
Yes, yes, it was definitely a family show. But see, when my kids were young, this was an absolute staple.
Chuckle Vision.
Yeah, Chuckle Vision.
God, yeah.
And it's very funny because you spend with young kids, you suddenly think that CBeebies and whatever, you're never going to know a world beyond sort of children's television, but and then one day it just suddenly stops because they stop watching because they're of an age, and so I turn up at your house and they're all the favourites on the television. Was it Fireman Sam?
Might be your favourite.
Postman Pat.
Yeah.
And I don't really miss it that much.
I will just make a quick note here for Moriarty. I know what you're doing. Scribble it out, please. No links between us and the Chuckle Brothers. I know what you've got planned. Don't.
It might prove irresistible.
To be fair, it's exactly what I would do, and that's why I said it. While we're summing up the year, the New York Times have done the same. They've made a list of their best crime novels of the year earlier this month. I will zoom through that. Lisa Sandlin's The Bird Boys, which was set in 1973 in Beaumont, a bustling city on a Texas Gulf Coast. It's a classic missing persons case. Soren Sveistrop's The Chestnut Man, which is a cunningly plotted Danish police procedural about a body part collecting serial killer. Denise Mina's on the list with Conviction, in which her fiery Glaswegian heroine rails against the lasting emotional damage done on social networks in the name of truth and transparency. A debut novel from John McMahon, The Good Detective, which includes a loving and moving interior monologues of a 15-year-old boy narrating the particulars of his own murder. Attica Locke's on the list as well with Heaven My Home, When the 9-year-old son of a captain in the Aryan Brotherhood goes missing, only Darren Matthews, the African-American Texas Ranger who keeps this series as honest as it is politically pointed, can avert a race war. Jeffrey Deaver's also on the list with The Never Game, in which someone is collecting people to star in staged scenes from a violent video scenario. The rules are fair but murderous, and the game pieces are not expected to survive their ordeals. There's James Lee Burke with The New Iberia Blues, about a condemned murderer who escapes from a Texas prison and comes home to Louisiana ready to kill again. Michael Connolly as well. We've got the big names on there, along with The Night Fire with Harry Bosch and René Ballard. Martha Grimes is The Old Success, in which, after a Frenchwoman's body turns up on one of the Isles of Scilly, the story switches residence to a Northamptonshire pub. Here, Jury confers with his aristocratic friend Melrose Plant, who keeps a most unusual menagerie that includes a goat named Aghast, a dog named Agro, and a horse named Aggrieved. And they finish it off with James Salis, his book Sarah Jane, which is about a chicken farmer's daughter who becomes the acting sheriff of a small southern town. That's the list from the New York Times for this year. If you fancy any of those,
where could you possibly? I mean, apart from, of course, being on your list for Santa.
Yes. Well, it's a bit late now, isn't it? By the time this goes out, but
well, I suppose so. Yes.
Oh, of course. No, I mean, anybody sensible, of course, will have a brand new Kobo device for Christmas, or perhaps a new smartphone or tablet or any electronic device on which you could download the free Kobo app, and then you can use the promo code CRIME at the checkout and get 90% off of any of those books.
Absolutely, and they are all made with great delicacy and expertise by little elves in the North Pole.
Yeah.
So get your Kobo special reader. They are good, aren't they?
Oh, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So, genuinely. And if you don't want to buy one for whatever reason, then you can still make use of that 90% off discount code CRIME by just downloading the free app for your iPhone, for your tablet, for whatever you like. Download the free Kobo app and there you go, 90% off your first book and 40% off of your future purchases using the promo code PARTNERS. And that's because you're a very lucky little Partners in Crime listener.
Well, may I just say, the dexterity that you use to say the same thing week in, week out is always slightly different.
And make it sound fresh for the 88th time.
Fresh as a daisy. I take my hat off to you at this time of year. Well done.
It's nearly 200 times I said that, because I try and do it twice an episode. Sometimes don't manage any, so it's probably nearer 100.
I know, it all works out. It all works out in the end. Anyway, now here we are. We have got a new series coming up just after Christmas on BBC Four. Again, I've been reading a lot about this, but Paul Hirons, as ever, has his finger on the pulse. It looks like we're getting a new Nordic noir as the year ends and the new one starts. Wisting, which stars Sven Nordin and Carrie Ann Moss, is based on the best-selling books The Cavemen and the Hunting Dogs by writer Jean Lear Horst. Set in the unique and stunning landscape of Norway, this series follows homicide detective William Wisting. See what they've done there? As he wrestles with the most challenging and shocking case of his career. It's always the most challenging, isn't it? It has to be. It has to be. A wanted American serial killer preying amongst them. Moss plays FBI agent Maggie Griffin alongside British actor Richie Campbell, who plays Special Agent John Bantham. The pair are brought in to help Wisting and his team apprehend the infamous killer who has eluded capture for years. Leading Norwegian theatre and film actor Sven Nordin stars as Detective William Wisting. Meanwhile, Line, Wisting's intrepid journalist daughter, is chasing headlines, leading her straight into the path, of course, of the serial killer. Suddenly, an old case comes back to haunt Wisting, and a dreadful accusation is hurled at him. How will Wisting save other lives when he finds himself suspended and fighting for his own reputation, career, and life? Wisting starts on Saturday the 28th of December on BBC 4 at 9 p.m. I, for one, will be watching that. That sounds absolutely terrific. I wonder if that's a co-production. Sounds as if it is. I always think that's a co-production when you actually have police forces coming from America or the UK or whatever to Norway or Iceland or Alaska. Anyway, it sounds like a smashing series. I just said it's from the book, so there we are. Okay, so that's your post Christmas. That's the thing that you will be watching on the 28th. Well, I will be watching on the 28th. With finishing off the copious. We've got hundreds of mince pies this year. We've been given loads of mince pies.
We've bought no mince pies. We've managed to do away with those. We have the usual kind of chocolate platters and things.
I was going to bring down a bucket load for you. So you might not be able to dodge that particular bullet. Well,
I've got some little treats for you before we go. So don't worry, you'll have some of those.
Oh, yeah. What can that possibly be?
Well, it's chocolate based, so don't get your hopes up.
If it's a 40% off of my mince pie offer from Kobo, you can get stuff.
It's a Kobo promo code. Yeah. Well, we're talking Christmas, which we are because it's pretty much Christmas now. I mean, it's not going to get much closer. I saw an article on France24.com, which I read from cover to cover every weekday, month, however often it comes out, with the headline, "Christmas in Iceland means a flood of books under the tree." In the land of the sagas, it isn't Christmas if there isn't a deluge of books under the tree. Literally, says the article. The Jollabokaflod.
I beg your pardon?
The Jollabokaflods, or Christmas book flood, as I could have just said, is a much-loved tradition that has been celebrated in Iceland since 1945. In fact, 2/3 of books in Iceland are published in November and December, when hundreds of new titles go on sale in bookshops and supermarkets at reduced prices. A Yuletide custom that has also become vital for the publishing industry's survival. Apparently on Christmas Eve, Icelanders will traditionally exchange books and spend the whole evening reading. It's become a massive Christmas thing. In fact, there is a Bókatindindi, which is dreadfully pronounced for a start, but it's an 80-page catalogue of novels, poetry and children's books, which is distributed free of charge to all households. The 2019 catalogue features 842 new titles. Almost 7 out of 10 Icelanders buy at least one book as a Christmas gift, according to the Icelandic Publishers Association. And they say to be Icelandic is to read, which might explain why Iceland is generally considered to be the most developed and advanced nation on Earth. But apparently it's all books. And it's a massive thing. In fact, here's some more interesting stats for you. More than 90% of Icelanders read at least one book a year, and half read more than 8 a year. And around 1 in 10 Icelanders will publish a book in their lifetime. Right. 1 in 10 people will publish a book.
How many Icelanders are there?
Well, at least 10, because 1 in 10 of them publishes a book.
I merely ask.
But interestingly enough, even though books are so huge, more than 90% read at least one a year, half read more than 8 a year. It's a massive thing in Iceland, especially this time of year. Interestingly, at full price, the average hardback costs about 6,990 krona, which is about €52 or $57. So you're looking at £50 for a hardback book. Is the average cost, and it is still that huge. So books are incredibly valued in Iceland. They're valuable not just financially but culturally. It's a massive thing, even though they pay that much for them.
What are you scribbling down there?
No, I was scrolling my mouse. I wasn't writing anything with my finger.
You say that. I thought you were. I thought you were writing down. Must get my books in hardback
in Iceland
as quickly as possible.
Well, this is the thing.
To self.
Well, the reason is Iceland has almost no forests, so books have to be printed abroad and shipped over there. And Iceland is a long way from anything, so they are all technically imported.
That is true.
But in a bid to help support the industry, the government of Iceland decided this year to reimburse 25% of the production costs for books published in Icelandic for both original and translated works. Sorry, go on.
They love their crime. In fact, we are visiting the Icelandic Literary Festival.
I hope so. Yeah,
later on in the year, which is absolutely supposed to be
take partners in crime to Iceland.
Quite brilliant. So that's I didn't know that. So it's nice to know that a culture embraces literature on that particular scale.
It's a wonderful forward-thinking country. In fact, I think they've. I saw something in the news last week or the week before. They've just appointed a new prime minister, 34-year-old woman.
Yes.
They've got. I think all the leaders. I think of the 5 or 6 main parties are all women under the age of 40.
Wow.
It's an extraordinary country. So yeah, there we go. The Jollibukaflot, which I've probably pronounced wrong.
No, I mean, you've totally won me over with your Icelandic accent. I think that's. I think you're going to have a lovely time on your visit to Reykjavik.
Oh God! I know a couple of Icelandic writers actually who I'm going to have to speak to, so I don't embarrass myself when I'm over there.
Oh no, go on! Just go in and embarrass yourself. There's no harm.
So just go in doing a whole hurdy-gurdy kind of thing and just try and get away with it.
The all-purpose Northern Countries accent. That'll.
I'll do the same for Scotland as well.
Yeah, will you? Well, I'm addicted to Icelandic yogurt. I've found Iceland. You see,
it's your favourite supermarket as well, isn't it?
I have. It's delicious. I got some in Sainsbury's the other day, but absolutely lovely. A very distinctive taste. Look out for. I think it's called Skia. I think SKYR or whatever. But it's worth getting a pot and enjoying yourself, and it's also been very good for your tummy after the extreme nature of one's dining experiences over the festive season.
You've got to be careful how you say things, Bob.
I know.
It's well worth getting a pot of Icelandic yogurt and enjoying yourself. Happy Christmas, everyone.
I don't know where your mind ventures at times, but it's some yes. Well, let's say that about that. Better strawberry flavour is very nice.
Oh yes. Silky smooth. On the note of Happy Christmas,
yes.
We said a few times, so just in case you missed it, is our Christmas special, our end of year special, and as a result, we decided we had to do something a little bit different. I spoke to Moriarty about this,
yes.
who suggested that this year there isn't an Agatha Christie at Christmas TV special, as there has been the last few years. So the suggestion was, should we script and produce a Christie at Christmas, a mini kind of protest one? Yeah. To which I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. I sat down to start doing it and thought, no, sod this, it's taking far too much time and it's no good and it's too much effort, frankly. But I did write a little something else instead for Christmas, which we have We've
laid down that track.
We have. If you thought the production budget and values on the Crown were high, then you ain't seen nothing yet. Just wait until you hear what we have coming up for you now, which I'm going to play in just a moment. We're going to end the show on it, so we'll say our
Happy Christmas. I'll say one thing. My Christmas joke.
Go on.
What's the difference between a snowman and a snow woman?
Snowballs. I think everyone knows that one.
And he says he doesn't read crackers. He does. He knows all the bad jokes, and you don't even go to pantomime. Well, happy Christmas to everyone. Thanks for listening on a regular basis to us two rambling on in our dotage, well, my dotage, and he's a young man to my right here. But it's been a fantastic year. We've absolutely loved it, and special thanks to our guests who've come in the absence of Daws here and have done such admirable work. Thank you very much indeed, Adrian and
Rachel Amphlett as well.
Well, Rachel, of course, Rachel, and all our guests, and for you who've been writing in with your emails and your interest. We really do appreciate it. It makes our job a lot easier and great fun. But happy Christmas, I have to say, to my partner in crime, Adam, who's quite inspiring in many ways. He always gets the punchline to any joke I might have. He keeps the coffee hot and the brain cells active, I have to say, and it's a pleasure coming to Croft Studios to do Partners in Crime once a week, and here's to next year.
Well, happy Christmas to you too. Unfortunately, I don't have anything anywhere near as nice to say about you.
Well, there isn't anything nearly so nice to say about me.
But I hope you have a good one. I hope you have a wonderful new year as well, as we come back for our third year as the Partners in Crime. We've got a big year planned. We've got lots of live stuff going on. We're taking Partners in Crime on the road as well, at least a couple of times. So in order to celebrate that and to wish you all a very Merry Christmas, we present to you now the Partners in Crime Christmas special thing. Twas the podcast before Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. 'Twas the week before Christmas on Partners in Crime, and the hosts were preparing their short pantomime, performed in the style of an old festive poem. The rhymes they were smart, and the words they were flowing. The listeners were snuggled up, headphones on ears, in the hope that we might have improved in 2 years. And not a person was sad or upset or annoyed, and no one was angry, not even James Elroy. When outside the door there arose such a clatter, as Adam's young child popped in for a natter.
I want to talk to you.
The hosts bumbled on and tried to make do, as they tried to debate Scandi Noir and gumshoes. The chaps plodded on with the best of intentions, hoping their tones would drown out interventions. But all hope was lost amongst a cacophony of sounds, and the hosts' unprofessionalism still knew no bounds. They pleaded for help from the wise Moriarty, who'd already gone off to the show's Christmas party. The hosts were left wondering why they weren't invited, and feared that this podcast team wasn't united. They turned off their mics, then jumped into Bob's go-kart, and they went to the party, where they found Adrian Hobart. He gave them a drink, and he started to boast, as he pointed to his chest and the badge that said host.
What's going on?
Adam asked with confusion, as Bob took a sip of his mild wine infusion.
Never you mind,
said the guest host with glee, as Adam tucked into his mug of green tea.
How are the drinks, boys?
The Hobart chap said, as Adam and Bob smiled and nodded their heads.
I think you might find you two have been replaced,
he said, as the boys twigged their drinks had been laced. The noises sounded muffled and the room started spinning, as Adam and Bob noticed Adrian grinning. The guest host made gestures to call Moriarty, who carried the boys back out of the party. They opened the storeroom and threw the boys in, as Hobart stood beaming, his face in a grin, and he called out behind him as he turned out the light.
Happy Christmas to all, and to all, a good night. Ha 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 ha!